It's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead, and we're going to continue reading in our book, but it looks like Sky's going to hang out for a while. That'll be nice. Story that we're reading is By the Shores of Silver Lake by Laura Ingalls Wilder. We're on chapter 18. Pa finds a homestead, and I'll show you the picture that they're illustrating. Do you remember last night? Laura and Carrie went running and sliding across Silver Lake that's frozen. And when they got to the far side, there was a great big wolf. Well, let's see what's going to happen now. After breakfast next morning, Pa took his gun and set out. All that morning, Laura was listening for a shot and not wanting to hear it. All morning, she remembered the great wolf sitting quiet in the moonlight that shimmered through his thick fur. Pa was late for dinner. It was long past noon when he stomped the snow from his feet in the lean-to. He came in and put his gun on the wall and hung his cap and coat on the nail. His mittens he hung by the thumbs to dry on the line behind the stove. Then he washed his face and hands in the tin basin on the bench. They didn't have running water in their house, so the tin basin would be like a bowl. And before the small glass that hung above it, he combed his hair and his beard. "Sorry I kept dinner waiting, Carolyn," he said. "I was gone longer than I thought. Went further than I intended." "It doesn't matter, Charles. I've kept dinner warm," Ma replied. "Come to the table, girls. Don't keep Pa waiting." "How far did you go?" Mary asked. "Better than 10 miles, all told," said Pa. "Those wolf tracks led me to a chase." "Did you get the wolf, Pa?" Carrie wanted to know. Laura didn't say anything. Pa smiled at Carrie and said, Now, don't ask such questions. I'll tell you all about it. I went across the lake, followed the marks you girls made last night, and what do you suppose I found in that high bank where you saw the wolf?" "You found the wolf," Carrie said confidently. Laura said nothing. Her food was choking her. She could hardly swallow the smallest mouthful. "I found the wolves' den. That's where they live," said Pa, "and the biggest wolf tracks I've ever saw. Girls, there were 2 big buffalo wolves at that den last night." Mary and Carrie gasped. Ma said, "Charles!" "It's too late to be scared now," Pa told them. "But that's what you girls did. You went right up to the wolves' den, and there were the wolves. Their tracks were fresh, and all the signs show plain as day what they were doing. It's an old den, and from their size, they're no young wolves. I'd say they'd been living there for some years. But they haven't been living there this winter. They came down from the northwest sometime yesterday evening and went pretty straight to that den. They stayed around it, in and out of it, maybe till this morning. I followed their tracks from there down the big slough and out on the prairie southwest. From the time they left the old den, those wolves never stopped. They trotted along side by side as if they had started on a long journey and knew where they were going. I followed them far enough to be sure I couldn't get a shot at them. They'd left for good." Laura took a deep breath as though she had forgotten to breathe till now. Pa looked at her. "You glad they got away, Laura?" he asked. That sound is Coco's tail. Yes, Pa, I am, Laura answered. They didn't chase us. No, Laura, they didn't chase you. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why they didn't. And what were they doing at the old den, Ma wondered. They were just looking at it, said Pa. My belief is that they came back to visit the old place where they lived before the graders came and the antelopes left. Maybe they used to live there before the hunters killed the last buffaloes. Buffalo wolves were all over this country once, but there's not many left now, even around here. The railroads and settlements kept driving them farther west. One thing for certain, if I know anything about wild animal tracks. Now the kitten's going crazy. Gracie is. I lost my place. Those two wolves came straight from the west and straight back west, and all they did here was stop one night at the old den. I wouldn't wonder if they're pretty nearly the last buffalo wolves that'll ever be seen in this part of the country. Ah, Pa, the poor wolves, Laura moaned. Mercy on us, Ma said briskly. There's enough to be sorry for without being sorry for the feelings of wild beasts. Be thankful the brutes didn't do any worse than scare you girls last night. That isn't all, Carolyn, Pa announced. I've got some news. I found our homestead. Oh, where, Pa? What's it like? How far is it, Mary and Laura and Carrie asked, excited. Ma said, That's good, Charles. Pa pushed back his plate and drank his tea, wiped his mustache, and said, It's just right in every way. It lies south of where the lake joins the big slough, and the slough curves around to the west of it. There's a rise in the prairie to the south of the slough that will make a nice place to build. A little hill just west of the crowds of the slough back on that side. On the quarter section, now see, they were given, I think, 200 acres. Maybe it was 2,500 acres. 250 acres, I think, is how much land they were given if they could homestead it. And they called that quarter section. There's upland hay and plowland lying to the south, and good grazing, all of it. Everything a farmer could ask for, and it's near the town site, so the girls could go to school. I'm glad, Charles, said Ma. It's a funny thing, Pa said. I've been looking around this country for months and never finding a quarter section that just exactly suited me. And that one was laying there all this time. Likely enough, I wouldn't have come across it if this wolf chase hadn't taken me across the lake and down the slough along that side. I wish you'd filed on that claim last fall, Ma worried. Nobody will be here this winter, Pa said confidently. We'll get out to Brookings and file a claim next spring before anyone else is looking for a homestead. So I found a place that he thinks is just perfect. That's the end of that chapter. So, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I want to pray blessings on you and yours. Excuse me. In your house and out of your house, in the day and in the night. And whatever you do, keep dreaming. All right. Good night and God bless you.